What if I told you that the life you are living right now, the income, the relationships, the opportunities, the limitations, is not the result of your circumstances. It is not the result of where you were born. It is not the result of what happened to you. It is not even the result of how hard you've worked. It is the result of a program that was installed in your mind before you were old enough to consent to it, before you were old enough to question it, before you even knew it was happening. And here's what makes this the most important thing I will ever say to you. You can change the program. Not in a year. Not after years of therapy and self-help books and weekend retreats. In 7 days. 7 days of deliberate, focused, consistent mental work. And you will begin to experience a shift so fundamental that the person you are at the end of those 7 days will be genuinely different from the person you are right now. I'm going to show you exactly how. Now, I want to be precise with you from the start, because precision matters. When I say reprogram your mind in 7 days, I am not promising you that 7 days will complete the transformation. I am telling you that 7 days is enough to begin it in a way that is real, measurable, and irreversible. Think of it this way. When a ship changes its course by just 1 degree, in the first moment, that change is almost invisible. The ship looks like it's going the same direction. You can barely see the difference. But 1 year later, 5 years later, that ship is in a completely different ocean. 7 days of mental reprogramming is the 1 degree shift. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. But the trajectory has changed. And trajectory, not current position, is what determines where you end up. So let me show you what the 7 days look like. What the science behind it is. And most importantly, what it looks like in real human lives. Because theory, without example, is just noise. Before we get to the 7 days, you need to understand what you're actually working with. Your mind operates on 2 levels. There is the conscious mind, the part you identify as you, the part that is listening to me right now, the part that makes deliberate decisions, holds conversations, sets goals, makes plans. And then there is the subconscious mind. And this is where the real program lives. Your subconscious mind is responsible for approximately 95% of your mental activity. 95%. The conscious thinking you do, the decisions you believe you're making freely, are mostly the surface expression of a program running beneath it that you didn't write and may have never examined. That program was written in your early years, by the environment you grew up in, by the repeated messages you received from parents, teachers, peers, culture, by the experiences that left a mark, by the things that were said to you, and the things that were never said. And once a belief is embedded in the subconscious, once it becomes part of the program, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't introduce itself before it influences you. It simply operates. Quietly. Automatically. In the background. Which means most people are living lives that were designed by a program they didn't choose, running on beliefs they've never examined, moving toward outcomes that are the inevitable product of mental software they installed before they were 10 years old. This is not fatalism. This is neuroscience. And understanding it is the first step to changing it. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus grew up in a household where money was always discussed in one of 2 ways. Either there wasn't enough of it, or it was the source of conflict. Every month, the same arguments. Every year, the same anxiety. And, underneath all of it, a message that was never spoken directly, but was communicated in 1,000 small ways. Money is hard. Money is scarce. People like us don't have it easy. Marcus grew up, got educated, worked hard. By every external measure, he was doing the right things. But no matter what he earned, no matter how many times his income increased, he found himself consistently back at the same financial position, struggling, anxious, spending just beyond his means. He thought it was discipline. He thought it was bad luck. He thought it was the economy. It wasn't any of those things. It was the program. His subconscious mind had been running the same belief since childhood. I don't get to have financial security. And it was directing every decision, every behavior, every financial choice he made, in perfect alignment with that belief, without him ever knowing it. The moment Marcus identified the program, the moment he stopped treating his financial situation as an external problem and started treating it as an internal one, everything began to shift, not because his circumstances changed overnight, because the instructions changed. That is what we are doing in 7 days. Let me walk you through each day. What you're doing, why you're doing it, and what it's actually changing in your brain. You cannot change what you cannot see. And most people have never actually sat down and looked clearly, honestly, without defense, at the beliefs that are running their life. So on day 1, your only job is this. Take a pen and paper. Sit somewhere quiet and complete these sentences without thinking too hard, without editing. Write the first thing that comes. Money is Diane. Successful people are. I am the kind of person who people like me don't. When things are going well, I expect. I could never read what you wrote, because what comes out of those sentences without editing, that is the program. That is the raw material you've been building your life on. And for most people, this is the first time they have ever seen it written down. The first time they've looked at it as a thing, a set of installed beliefs rather than as the truth about the world. Day 1 doesn't ask you to change anything. It asks you to see, because you cannot reprogram what you refuse to acknowledge. Diane was a woman in her early 40s who had spent her entire adult life in relationships that followed the same pattern. Different men, different circumstances, same dynamic. She would begin well, become indispensable, and then slowly, consistently, be taken for granted. She told herself it was bad luck. Told herself she just kept choosing the wrong people. When Diane did this exercise, when she sat down and completed those sentences honestly, one of the things she wrote was, I am the kind of person who has to earn love. She stared at it for a long time. She'd never said those words out loud before, never even formed that thought consciously. But the moment she saw it written, she recognized it. She recognized it in every relationship she'd ever been in, every friendship, every work dynamic. She had been operating on that program for 30 years. Day 1, just day 1, of seeing it clearly began to unravel something that years of dating advice never touched. Because you can't fix the relationship. You have to fix the program first. On day 2, you go one level deeper. You take the beliefs you identified on day 1, and you ask one question about each one. Where did this come from? Not to assign blame, not to open old wounds without purpose, but because a belief loses some of its power the moment you can see that it was handed to you by someone else. It came from a specific person, a specific experience, a specific environment, not from the truth about the world or the truth about you. When you can say, I believe I'm not good enough, and I first received that message from my father, who was critical because he was afraid, not because it was true. Something shifts. The belief is no longer a fact. It becomes a story. And stories can be rewritten. Your brain has been gathering evidence for your limiting beliefs for years. Every setback, every rejection, every failure, filed away as proof. Confirmation that the program is accurate. That the belief is justified. On day 3, you do the opposite. You take each limiting belief and you build a case against it. Write down every piece of evidence in your life that contradicts it. I am not capable. Find every moment when you were. The problem you solved. The thing you built. The time you kept going when everything in you wanted to stop. I don't get opportunities. Find every door that opened. Every person who chose you. Every moment where something went your way. Your brain found the negative evidence automatically. It was selected for by the filter your program created. This is you manually selecting the evidence it missed. You are not lying to yourself. You are correcting an incomplete record. James had believed since his late 20s that he wasn't intelligent enough for the kind of success he wanted. He'd left school without qualifications. His early work history was inconsistent, and every time he sat in a room with people he considered more educated than himself, he shrank. On day 3, James made a list. He wrote down every problem he had ever solved that the people around him couldn't. Every time he had seen something they missed. Every business decision that had worked. Every person who had come to him for advice, including people with the degrees he never got. By the end of that list, James had 23 pieces of evidence that directly contradicted the belief that had been limiting him for 15 years. He didn't become a different person that day. But he started to become a person who was no longer entirely sure the old belief was true. And that crack, that small fracture in the certainty of a limiting belief, is exactly where the new program begins. On day 4, the work shifts from removal to installation. For every limiting belief you've identified, challenged, and traced, you now write its replacement. Not the opposite. The replacement. Because the opposite of I'm not good enough is not I am perfect. Your brain won't accept that. It knows better. The replacement is directional, forward-facing, true in a way your brain can verify. Not good enough becomes I am someone who is constantly growing in capability and confidence. I don't deserve success becomes I am learning every day to receive what my work is worth. People can't be trusted becomes I am developing the discernment to know who deserves my trust. These are not affirmations in the shallow sense. These are new instructions, written in a language your subconscious can accept, because they acknowledge where you are while pointing toward where you're going. Write them. Read them out loud. Morning and evening. Every single day from this point forward. You are not convincing yourself. You are watering a seed. Your mind does not exist in isolation. It is in constant conversation with the environment around it. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the conversations you participate in, the physical spaces you move through. And if the environment stays the same, if you return every day to the same inputs that created and reinforced the old program, then the new beliefs you're installing will be constantly fighting an uphill battle. On day 5, you audit your environment. You ask honestly, what in my daily environment is feeding the old program? The friend who consistently confirms your limiting beliefs. The content that keeps you in a state of comparison and inadequacy. The conversations that return, always, to why things are hard and why they won't get better. You don't have to burn everything down. But you have to be honest about what you're feeding your mind every day. Because your mind becomes what it is consistently exposed to. Start replacing. One input at a time. One conversation at a time. Build an environment that is in alignment with the program you are installing, not the one you're trying to leave behind. Sarah had been trying to build a business for 3 years. She had the idea, the work ethic, the skill. But every time she got close to a breakthrough, something in her would pull back. She'd self-sabotage in ways she couldn't explain. When she examined her environment, she found something she hadn't expected. Her closest friends, the people she spent the most time with, had never started anything, had never taken a risk, had never chosen the uncertain path over the safe one. And every time Sarah moved toward her business, the response from her circle was not malicious, but it was consistently deflating. Are you sure that's realistic? What about the security you'd be giving up? I just don't want you to get hurt. They weren't enemies. They loved her, but they were feeding the program she was trying to delete. Sarah didn't abandon her friends, but she deliberately increased her exposure to people who had built what she was trying to build. Podcasts, communities, mentors, people whose environment said, "This is possible, this is normal, this is what people like you do." Within 6 months, the internal resistance that had been stopping her for 3 years began to dissolve, not because her work changed, because her inputs changed. By day 6, you have seen the old program, traced it, challenged it, installed a replacement, and begun to clean up the environment feeding it. Now comes the most important step. You have to act like the new person before you feel like them. This is the step most people resist, because it feels inauthentic. It feels like performance. It feels like pretending. But here is what neuroscience tells us. Behavior precedes belief more often than belief precedes behavior. You do not wait until you feel confident to act confidently. You act confidently, consistently, repeatedly. And the feeling follows the behavior, because your brain is watching what you do, and it builds its beliefs about who you are from the evidence of your actions. So, on day 6, you identify 3 behaviors that the person with the new program would demonstrate. If the new belief is, "I am capable," what would a capable person do today that you are currently avoiding? If the new belief is, "I am worthy of success," what would a person who believed that say yes to? What would they stop apologizing for? Do those 3 things today. Not perfectly. Just do them. You are giving your brain new evidence. You are building the case for the new program, one action at a time. Day 7 is not the finish line. It is the beginning of maintenance. And maintenance is what separates the people who transform temporarily from the people who transform permanently. Your old program was built through years of repetition. The new one requires repetition too. On day 7, you build your maintenance practice. It does not need to be complicated. It needs to be consistent. Morning, read your new beliefs out loud. Every day. Evening, ask yourself, did I act from the old program or the new one today? No judgment, just observation. Weekly, review the evidence list from day 3 and add to it. Every week, find new proof that the new beliefs are true. And when, not if, when the old program resurfaces, because it will. Patterns that were built over years do not disappear in 7 days. When it resurfaces, you do not treat it as failure. You treat it as practice. You catch it. You name it. You redirect. That's the old program. That's not who I am anymore. And you return to the new instruction. Every single time. There is an old story about a farmer who discovered that one of his fields had been growing the wrong crop for years. Not because the soil was bad, not because the seeds were defective, but because years ago, without realizing it, he had planted the wrong seeds. And every year he wondered why the harvest was not what he expected. When someone finally showed him what had been planted, when he could see the seeds for what they were, he didn't curse the soil. He didn't abandon the field. He didn't give up on farming. He cleared the ground. Carefully. Deliberately. And he planted new seeds. He knew the new crop wouldn't appear overnight. He knew it would take time and water and attention and patience. But he also knew this. The field that was growing the wrong crop for years was the same field that could grow the right one. The soil was never the problem. It was always the seeds. You are the field. These 7 days, they are you finally planting the right seeds. 7 days, not to complete your transformation, to begin it. To shift the trajectory by 1 degree in a direction that, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, will have taken you somewhere unrecognizable from where you are standing today. Day 1, see the program. Day 2, trace the origin. Day 3, challenge the evidence. Day 4, install the new belief. Day 5, clean up the environment. Day 6, act from the new identity. Day 7, commit to the maintenance. 7 days. 8 minutes a day. No special equipment. No expensive course. No permission required from anyone. Just you. And a decision to stop living inside a program you didn't write. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your most powerful tool. For the first time, possibly for the first time in your life, you are about to pick it up and use it on purpose. 7 days. Start today.